What is up, guys? It is OpTic Ashes here, bringing you another video, episode 2 of hashtag Ask Ashes. So I'm going to be answering the questions that I got in the comments and the DMs and Twitters from the first Ask Ashes video, and I hope these questions and answers really help you guys out as they seem to be doing. So let's get started. Question number 1 comes from somebody named Neglectant, who said, who are your top 10 up-and-coming players in no particular order? And I thought long and hard about this, and I don't have 10. And the reason I don't have 10 is because I don't really follow the up-and-coming players as much as I probably should. Another side note of that is they don't have a place to really showcase themselves. So I kind of looked through the GB ladder, I thought back to MLG, and I tried to think of players who were either on teams that placed pro, but maybe 6th through 8th or 9th through 12th at MLG Columbus, or just players in the GB ladder that I've run into before in matches and that I think could be up and coming potential. So I only came up with 6 names, and the reason that I'm sure there's more out there that I could talk about, but I'm gonna stick to these 6 for right now. I've said this before on Twitter, but I believe Ghost, many of them know him as, in stream chats, you see him XX_ghosts XX or whatever. He usually has an X in his name instead of an O, but I think he's a really talented player, and I think that he has the potential to be a very top tier player going into the next game. He has really good movement, mechanics, and really hungry to compete in the game. I think the players from Vex, or formerly Vex, known as Neglectant and Domes, are top tier players. In fact, I think that whole team is probably up and coming top tier players, but I'm picking out those 2 because I really saw those 2 going off at MLG Columbus. Not saying that the other 2 didn't have their moments, but just when I was paying attention, those 2 stood out to me. But shout out to you guys, Hooligan, Detox, you guys did work too. From Elevate, I wanted to bring up some of the Elevate players because I think they have more talent, and I think their talent gets hidden behind their persona in the community. And one player that I think really stood out to me when they won that first MLG 2K was Jerpy. I think he was playing exceptionally well, and so I think he's an up-and-coming player that may not get the credit he deserves, especially on that team of players. And then 2 more players who might be relatively unknown to most of you guys, especially those of you who are new to Gears of War, but to those of you in the competitive scene of Gears of War who might be watching this video, first off, thank you. Second, there's 2 players that have stood out to me, and I've met most of them, or I've met both of them. One I've played with, and the other one I've played against. And I can tell you that it is torture to play against the one, and he is a player by the name of Witchy, W-I-C-H-Y. I don't know anything about him. I don't know anything about his personality. I don't know anything about how he is as a teammate, but I can say that the things he's able to do online in Gears of War UE are impressive to me. And I think he's one of those players that, assuming that he has the right personality and the right mindset, which may or may not be, he could be a very good up-and-coming player. And, I would love to see him at a LAN event and see if the things that he does online are more than just, a good connection, are actually his talent. And the other player is a player by the name of Clear, or Clearflage. This kid is an amazing sniper. If he had been in the ESL Pro League, I think he would have been a top 3 sniper. He is consistent, he has a great shotgun, he's smart, he's hungry, and I think he's a really strong up-and-coming player. I've seen him take GB matches off of pro players, so I definitely think those players that I mentioned are up-and-coming players with no particular order. Ben Workman42 asks, what is the new 5v5 game mode? Does competitive Gal play other game modes such as King of the Hill? The new game mode is called Escalation. This is basically a multi-hill King of the Hill. There's 3 hills going on at the same time, and it's point-based. So you capture a hill, you hold it, as you hold it, you get more points. First team to X amount of points wins. There is a trick to it though. Actually, there's a few. Trick number 1, if you capture all 3 hills and hold them for a certain amount of time, you automatically win this or that round. This game mode is round based, so I think you have to win 12 rounds or 16 rounds or something like that in order to actually win the map. So if you hold all 3 hills for a certain amount of time, you automatically win that round. The next trick is, if after a round, the losing team gets to pick a place on the map to put a power weapon. It can be in the middle of the map in one of the areas. It can be on the sides of the map, but if it's on the sides, it gets balanced, so it's one on each side. This adds a new level of strategy to it. This means that if we want to put a sniper rifle outside of our base for mental to pick up, the other team has a sniper rifle outside of their base. So it adds another dimension to it. They reset after the halfway point, so it should be pretty interesting, and I'm really excited for it. The other side of this question, does competitive gal play other game modes? Not currently. In Gears of War 3, they played King of the Hill, but in Gears of War Ultimate Edition, it's been only X. The next question comes from Jake Lowry at Anchor for Thy Soul, and he said, as a coach, what do you feel is the biggest strength and weakness of the OpTic Gears of War team? And I would say our biggest strength is our chemistry or our raw skill. I can't really decide between the two. Both of them are big strengths of us. The team has amazing chemistry together, and they're all really talented. So it's hard to tell which one's more important than the other, but I think we have the right balance of both. And our biggest weakness, in my opinion, would honestly be kind of in our playstyle. We play a very much thrive in chaos kind of playstyle. We like to create the chaos and then win because we're better than you kind of thing. And when we lose control of that kind of organized chaos that we create, it's hard to come back from that. It's hard to regain after losing control of that organized chaos, especially to a team that's really tactically smart. All right, question number 4 comes from Born to Run, and he asks, what's the history of the Gears of War team? And I'm going to give you a very brief annotated history. The team was originally Explosive, Lava, Mental, and a player named Solars competing under the name Glory. At the end of Gears of War 3, they started scrimmaging on Gears of War 1 in preparation for Ultimate Edition coming out. When Ultimate Edition came out, they started playing that game, obviously. I joined the team as a manager in September 2015, basically to help keep sponsors lined up and in check. They attended their first LAN event under the name Swarm. This was the LAN event Hype Fest Station 4, and they attended actually with Kenny's little brother Phenomenon, who was being a sub for us at that time because Solars was unable to attend the tournament, and they ended up placing 3rd. They got back from that tournament. They qualified and dominated Season 1 of the ESL Pro League with a 13-1 record, as well as competed and won a majority of online tournaments such as Gfinities and Game Battles tournaments. They competed for most of the ESL Pro League under Swarm, then switching to Denial near the end of it. And they attended the Season 1, or we attended the Season 1 finals under the name Denial and ended up winning against Envy in the finals 3-2 with a reverse 3-0 sweep. So pretty exciting times. I started coaching actually 2 weeks into that Season 1 of the Pro League. So that's kind of when I started helping push them further and trying to do my best to make them better and prepare them for matches. During Season 2, we started having issues with our player Solars, and it affected our play and it affected our rank, and we ended up in the number 3 seed going into the finals, where actually going into the finals, Solars completely disappeared, doesn't talk to us, won't talk to us, still doesn't talk to any of us, I believe, and we ended up having to play with me at the Season 2 finals. Somehow we managed to win our first match, so we made it to the top 2, but we lost to Envy pretty disappointedly in the finals. After that event, we picked up Kenny. We had actually offered him the spot before the event, and he joined the team after the event because he was there with another team. And then we also offered Summons as the spot as our 5th for the Gears of War 4 5th spot coming out way in advance, I guess. We've won a bunch of online tournaments with both Kenny and Summons as our 4ths, kind of alternating them out. We've even used both of them at the same time. And then we attended MLG Columbus as Enemy Esports. We left Denial and placed 1st, beating Envy 3-2 again in the winners bracket finals, and then Dream Team 3-0 in the grand finals. And after that, we joined OpTic. Spellswap asks, what do you do for the team as a coach? And I'm going to try to keep this short and maybe cover this in another video because there's a lot I can talk about. So I try to help develop strats, and for this game it's been mostly trick strats. I keep statistics on the other teams and present them to the players in a way that's easier for them to understand and keep track of. I prepare scouting reports on matches and then help develop the game plans for those matches based on the scouting reports. I host video reviews with the team so that they go over replays and that they're constantly learning from mistakes, both losses and wins. We review opposing team footage, and then from that I take notes and then give it to my players so that they have kind of the condensed version of what they need to look out for when going against a certain team. I make sure practice is constantly progressive and that the players are pushing themselves. I hate to see players plateau, and I think constantly pushing them to be better than they currently are is what makes them so amazing, and that they're hungry to constantly be better. And then I also handle conflict resolution within the team. This doesn't happen that much, but it has happened in the past, and it proved helpful. Jake Lowry asks, I noticed there's a lot of rolling in Gears of War. Is that actually helpful, or is it just second nature to do? Honestly, man, people very rarely intentionally roll in the game. Usually when you see somebody roll, they're actually trying to like slide to cover or do a move that we call wall bouncing, which is bouncing between sliding the covers. So when they roll, it's more of an accidental roll, and rolling is actually slower than just straight up running. So usually people like roll right when they spawn and then start running to help propel that leaving spawn as fast as possible. MO asks, how do you think having an extra player in Gears of War 4 will affect communication? And will it affect your role going into events? Also, what are the do's and don'ts of communication? So, answering those one by one, yes. Having an extra player will drastically affect the communication within the team. I think that having 4 voices can be very chaotic in a shooting game, and having a 5th voice on top of that will add to the chaos. Having the game be a respawn game type, even more chaos. So it's going to be a lot of work to make sure that we can all hear and understand each other. For me, currently I've been acting as a 5th voice and making sure, like, reassuring callouts that might not be heard, keeping timers of weapons, helping call out potential rotations and stuff so that Gilbert can make the final call. But I think now that there's going to be 5 people involved, I don't see myself being as active at the events in terms of communication. I think that having 6 people communicate during a game might be a little bit too much. And so my plan is to more get them prepared as much as possible, and then, you know, play it by ear, see what they need filled in as that, you know, if they need a 6th voice, which I don't see particularly happening. As for the do's and don'ts of communication, my do's are very simple. I've talked about this in some of my pro coaching series videos, which you can see on my YouTube channel. But basically the do's are communicate the person, the place, and the damage. Those are the 3 essential things for communication in a shooting game. You want to communicate what character or what person is hurt, like who you're shooting at or who you're aiming at, where they are, so the call out on the map that they're the closest to, and how much damage you've put into them. This will help. These are basically the 3 most important things, and it'll help make sure that you guys play efficiently off of each other. The don't complain. Okay, nobody cares that you died or why you died or what BS happened to you. Nobody cares. Doesn't help me. Don't ask why to your teammates. Saying why would you do something is one of my pet peeves. Like, why did you push that, or why did you go there? It does nothing but cause distrust and distress in your teammates, and should be avoided at all costs. And my last kind of major don't is don't critique your teammates during the game. If you have a comment about like, oh, we shouldn't do that again, let's do this differently the next round, that's one thing. Don't be like, bro, you shouldn't be pushing that 1v1, that was a really bad decision. Next time you need to just sit back. Like, maybe the player works well under that kind of pressure, like in the middle of the map, but typically, almost 100% of the time, players don't like being critiqued in the middle of the match. A good player knows that they messed up. They don't need you to tell them that they messed up. They're already thinking that to themselves. They need a morale boost. They need to be picked up. They need to be encouraged that they're going to do better the next time, and that they have the confidence of their teammates. So don't do any of those things. The last question of this video is coming from somebody who wishes to remain anonymous, and they ask, what should I look for when talking to or approaching organizations? How do I tell if they're shady or legit? And And honestly, my answer, there's 3 big things for this kind of subject, and I might cover this more in another video, like in its own video. Basically, your 3 biggest tools, at least my 3 biggest tools, are common sense, Twitter audit, which is a website that lets you audit a Twitter to see how many followers are real or fake, and Google. All right. So how do you apply these to approaching an org? Basically, when you're talking to an org, and if they're a small org with 2,000 Twitter followers and they're promising you that they're going to give you a gaming house and that they're going to give you $2,000 a month in salary and that they're going to give you all this equipment and apparel and stuff, that should be a red flag. Okay. Yes, there are a lot of orgs with private investors who can do that. I'm not saying that is not possible. It's actually very possible, especially in League of Legends. But a lot of people will say whatever they need to say in order to get you involved and then make up excuses why they can't provide those things. So do your research. What organization is going to have an LLC for their business name? If they don't, that should be a red flag. So Google the organization's name and the LLC, or ask them what their LLC is. If they don't have one, that should be a concern. An established organization is going to have an LLC. Use Twitter audit. Check their Twitter to see if the account was bought, to see if the followers were bought. Okay, these should be red flags. They should have like a majority real followers. That's pretty common sense. If they're offering things that sound too good to be true, more than likely it's too good to be true. All right. Know the value of you and your team, and don't think, oh, I'm going to try to get as much as I can. Know what's realistic, right? Like if you are a team that's never placed top 8 at a LAN event or any online tournament, and an org is offering you a gaming house and $2,000 a month in salary, more than likely it's not real. Because an org is not going to make a dumb business investment, right? There's very few orgs that are known to do that. Actually, almost none are known to make bad business investments. They're spending their money on you. They want to make sure that you're going to be able to provide what they're expecting when they spend this money on you. So if you're a team that's never been able to place top 8 in anything, why would they spend that money on you? All right. So be logical with, knowing your own value. Don't expect like, we're a bunch of ex-pro players or subs for pro teams, or we placed 3rd in one of the ESL Open series, so we expect TSM to pick us up. That's not realistic. All right. So if you have an org coming along that you've never heard of that's offering you all this stuff, do your research. And when they give you a contract, that's going to be the biggest thing. Don't look at a contract and just assume that you know everything that's being said in that contract. Have somebody read it. Get somebody who knows law and knows legal jargon to go over it with you. Those are going to be key. You don't want to be signing something without being educated first. That's going to be it for this episode of Ask Ashes. Guys, I hope you really enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Really shows me that you guys are enjoying these videos. In the comments down below, feel free to ask your questions, or on Twitter or in my DMs. They're still open, using the hashtag AskAshes, and I will write them down for next week's episode. If you guys are feeling generous, have the extra second to spare, click the subscribe button down below. I really appreciate the support, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next episode. Go.